Alright guys, so why we think lustfully, okay? This is gonna be another very important video, the best video on the internet today, debunking lust, okay? And you guys will be able to understand a lot of things from this video, and make sure to listen with a very open mind and be very open to new thoughts and new perspective, okay? Because the goal of these videos is not for you to believe me blindly, but for you to actually give you the information so that you can actually question your own beliefs. You can use that information in your own thinking and come to that conclusion on your own, okay? So that's why it's very important to be open-minded, and open-minded is all about really listening with a very open mind and really questioning everything, questioning your beliefs, okay? So let's get right into it. So debunking lust. But before I talk about debunking lust, there is one important distinction to make, okay? There is one important thing to understand. So a very important distinction that we should make. Let's differentiate between mind and the brain, okay? Let's first differentiate between mind and the brain. So it's really important to understand that how we human beings works, right? So basically what you got to understand is that what are human beings. So human beings are simply the creatures that have their own brain, right? Like human beings are simply the creatures, we are simply the creatures that have our own brain, and we simply work in a physical environment, right? We simply work in a physical environment. So for example, I am a creature that have my own brain, and I simply work in a physical environment, right? So this is my physical environment, this is my world, right? Now what actually runs that is our mind. So mind is on the top, okay? So you need to understand that mind and the brain are not the same thing, okay? They both are two different things, and this is a very important distinction to make, okay? So let me draw a quick diagram, let me draw a quick sketching for you so you guys will be able to understand, right? This is our mind, right? And this is our, and sorry for my sketching is not that good, okay? But just for you to understand, this is our brain, right? And this is the mobile screen, or like whatever, or a hot girl, or like whatever, okay? So this is our environment, and this is our brain. So what you need to understand is that this is our mind, this is our brain, and this is the environment, the physical environment, okay? So basically, a thought about PMOing, a thought about watching porn, a thought about looking at hot girls, or a thought about thinking lustfully, it all begins in your mind and not in your brain tissue. That's very important to understand. A thought about watching porn, a thought about thinking lustfully, or a thought about masturbation, it all starts in your mind and not in the brain tissue. It does not start in the brain tissue. That's very important to understand, okay? Now from step 1 to step 2, nobody knows how that happens. Nobody knows how a thought that is completely physical, that has no form or function, how that thought originates in your mind and how it goes into your brain tissue. No one knows how that happens, okay? But it does, okay? We can measure that in different MRI machines, because you probably noticed that, oh, in different MRI machines, when they are scanning people's minds, people's brain, sorry, they're like, oh, just think about anything and your brain will light up, right? So you need to understand, but it does, okay? We can measure it by using different MRI machines. So this is a very important distinction to make, that the mind and the brain are not the same thing. Because in all of these nofap communities, in the nofap space, there is a very strong belief that the brain comes first, right? There's a very strong belief that oh, our brain gets bio hijacked somehow by the imagery, by the screen, by the video, right? And like, which is actually our environment, right? It gets our, somehow our brain gets bio hijacked by that environment, by that imagery, by that screen, right? And that forces you and that compels you to watch porn, or compels you to masturbate, or compels you to think lustfully. But that's not true, okay? That's not what actually happens. You need to understand that we always frame things in our mind first. We always frame things in our mind first, right? And then the brain is simply a hardwire, right? All the brain can do is simply control our body parts movements. Like I'm, you know, closing and opening my hands, I'm my fingerprint, my finger movements, all of these are controlled by brain, okay? Like all the brain can do, brain is simply a hardwire that is given the instructions by the mind, right? So you need to understand that the brain is simply a hardwire. It doesn't think, it doesn't have beliefs, it doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have like it doesn't have the ability to think, okay? It doesn't have motive, whatever, right? So all of that is simply in your mind. Now the mind, what actually happens, let me tell you what actually happens, okay? So a thought about, originally a thought about watching porn, a thought about masturbating, or a thought about thinking lustfully, it starts in your mind, right? It starts in your mind, and then your mind sends the signal to your brain, right? Your mind sends the signal to your brain, and then your brain controls your body parts movements. You go and watch porn, you open up your phone, you look at the imagery on the screen, you look at parts on the video, right? So what happens and then what actually happens is, you look at the screen, you look at a hot girl or whatever, and then those visual imagery, whether it's pornographic videos, whether it's a hot girl or whatever, those visual imagery then comes back in your brain, right? Like those visual imagery is processed through the brain tissue to be then brought back to your mind in the form of experience. You see what actually happens? So basically, your motive and your experience, how you feel about porn, how you decide to PMO and all of those things, that is in your mind, okay? Right? Like, what is the function of the brain here? Now all the brain can do is simply, it's a hard drive, okay? And also another function of the brain is that it simply takes the input from the environment, which can be a picture of a hot girl on the online or in the real life, or it can be pornographic videos, it can be screen, whatever, right? It takes that input and it provides that information back to the mind to be then interpreted. That's very important to understand, okay? So what we can conclude here is that all interpretive and emotional value is in your mind, and it's not in the brain tissue, right? Your mind runs your physical brain, because think about it, a brain is simply a physical structure, okay? Like, it doesn't have thoughts, it doesn't have beliefs, it doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have, all of that is in your mind, okay? Your mind is simply your thoughts, it's simply your beliefs, it's simply your ideas, emotions, whatever, okay? All of that is in your mind and not the brain tissue. So this is a very important distinction to make, right? Like, the source of everything that we think is in our mind and not in our brain. So basically, what you guys need to understand, that why I told you this. Now, what is the whole point of making this distinction was for you to understand that, bro, we don't think lustfully because we are forced to think lustfully, right? The whole point of making this distinction was to actually tell you that lust is not something that we are forced to do, but we always decide to lust, we always choose to lust, we always decide to lust based on our based on the benefits or the value that we see in it. Now what does that mean? Okay, you guys will be able to understand. So guys, back then, a few years ago, I just had this belief that, oh, if I watch porn or masturbate, oh, it's because I'm a man, and I need to have sex and I need to reproduce. And obviously you can do those things. I'm not against them, but this is literally the belief that that makes people think that, oh, the reason why they watch porn is because of your masculinity, right? Now, and the same belief goes for thinking about sex, okay? So basically, if I just tell you about my backstory, I used to think about sex a lot. Literally, I used to think about sex 24 out of 7, okay? Like, I was this guy who used to wake up every single day, and I used to fantasize about, these hot girls in my mind, and I was always thinking about sex in my own mind, okay? Whether I was used to wake up every single day, I would be at my work and I would be thinking about sex. I would be with my family and I would be thinking about sex. I would be fantasizing about these hot girls in my own mind, okay? So I was this kind of guy, okay? And right, I was always used to think that, oh, if I think about sex, if I think about girls, that means that I have a very high testosterone, I have a very high libido, I have a very high masculinity, right? Now, the biggest realization, the biggest realization that I had over the years was that in order to think about, uh, sorry for the camera, the biggest realization that I had over the years was that in order to think about sex, I had to use my own mind, right? Like, if I wanted to think about sex, I had to use my own mind, right? So basically, I cannot just, because without using my mind, I cannot think about sex, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's not this biological urge that comes out of nowhere and that we have no control over it. No, it's simply that I had to interpret that in my own mind, right? Yeah, yes, maybe the body has some special chemicals that makes you want to reproduce, but that's literally nothing, okay? Because it still needs to happen in your own mind, right? It still needs to be happen in your own mind. It needs to be your mind, uh, in order for you to fantasize, in order for you to think about sex 24 out of 7, okay? It still needs to be in your mind, okay? It still needs to be happen in your mind, right? So so basically it still needs to be you who wants to do those things, it's guys need to understand that it's not something that is forced upon you, but so what you guys need to understand that it's not something that is forced upon you. Lust is not something that is forced upon you, but because think about it, imagine if we are forced to think about something. Doesn't make any sense, okay? That's not possible. We are not forced to think about something. I mean, you can just stop thinking about it if you want to stop thinking about it, and you can just go and do something else, right? You can literally stop thinking about it if you choose to stop thinking about it, right? So basically what you guys need to understand that at the end of the day, this belief that, oh, you are more masculine, you have more testosterone, you have more libido, and you have like this conquering mindset because you're thinking about sex, which and this is something that you will hear from every single person in the society, right? And because the whole society says that, we think that it's the right belief. We literally think that it's the right belief, right? Because every single person in the society says that, we think that it's the right belief, right? And that's the hidden part that you're not aware of, right? So it doesn't mean that everyone have the same belief means that it's objectively the truth, right? It's not because everyone have this belief that, oh, man will think about sex because they have testosterone. No, it doesn't mean that everyone feels the same way, then it's the truth. No, right? Because the thing is, it's not everyone person in the society, but the thing is majority of the people believe that, and because majority of the people believe in the same exact mainstream belief, we think that it's the right belief, right? But it does not mean that, okay? So the actual problem is that the real problem lies in the fact that people actually believe in this cause and effect theory. People literally believe in this cause and effect theory, right? People actually believe that, people think that, oh, if I have testosterone, if I have libido, or if I have masculinity, that means I will want to watch porn, or I will want to masturbate, or I will want to think about sex 24 out of 7. You need to understand that all of that is in your own mind, right? And if it's your own mind that thinks about those things, that means you can just stop like this, right? You can just choose to not think about it if you want, like. But first you need to realize that it's not, you're not forced to think about it, but you choose to think of what you decide to think about it based on the value or the perceived benefits you see in it, right? You think that basically, and and that's the reason when I coach people in my coaching program, they don't believe me that it's whether it's actually possible to quit in 7 days, because they have this belief that they are forced by their biology. They are forced by their biology to watch porn or masturbate or think about sex. They literally believe that, right? But in reality, they are not forced, okay? But it's simply your own mind, okay? And that's why when I finish coaching my students, literally after 7 days, they realize that they are not forced by their biology, but instead they are choosing every single time what they want to do, right? And that's the biggest realization, and that's why they are able to quit extremely fast, and they never go back to it again. So what you guys need to understand, that you decide to go and do those things. It's not something that is forced upon you, but you choose and decide to go and do those things, to go and pursue those things, to think about sex or fantasize about girls every single time, okay? It's not cause and effect. So this is the biggest mindset shift that helped me to just stop thinking lustfully like this, right? And yeah, I can still do it if I want to think, if I want to do it. Like, it's not something that I can still do it if I want to do it. I just don't do it anymore because like, I just don't see any point in doing it, because I simply shifted my mindset when I realized that I can be more masculine, and I am more masculine if I don't think about sex, right? I just made a choice, right? So, and now don't get me wrong, I just didn't affirm to myself that, oh, if I don't think about sex, then I'm more masculine. No, I simply questioned my beliefs. I simply did my reasoning why, right? So I questioned my beliefs. I reasoned why, like why I'm more masculine if I don't think about sex. I just didn't affirm to myself that, oh, I'm more masculine if I don't think about sex. No, I simply rationalized why, reasoned myself why, like how am I more masculine if I don't think about sex, right? So I started questioning my beliefs. I was like, oh, I was like, oh, it's because first of all, I'm not controlled by this biology. I'm not controlled by my biology like everyone would say. That's the first thing. And second thing is that, like, oh, I'm not like everyone else in the society. I'm not like this degenerate society that is constantly chasing sex 24 out of 7. I'm not like this degenerate society, right? And I'm not like this society where people are putting sex on such a pedestal, right? I'm not like those people, like those weak and feminine men, whatever, right? But I mean, that's not my point, because the thing is, whether people are weak, whether people are strong, they can think about sex, okay? But you know what I mean, okay? So, and also, when I started questioning my beliefs, like how am I more masculine if I don't think about sex? And I was like, also, one another thing that, okay, so if I'm in a relationship, which I'm already married, right? So obviously there's also, like, I can have sex with my partner, whatever. So if I don't, so basically now, if I don't think about sex, wouldn't that be more masculine, right? Like, wouldn't that be more masculine if I don't fantasize about sex constantly 24 out of 7? And wouldn't that be more masculine, just being that man who doesn't look at women in a lustful way whilst he has a very loving partner on his side? Yes, it is more masculine, right? I simply started questioning my beliefs. And also, wouldn't that be more masculine, just being that man who spends his entire day, who doesn't spend his entire day thinking about sex? And also, I started rationalizing, why. Alright, so wouldn't that be more masculine if being that man who doesn't think about sex, his who doesn't spends his entire day just thinking about sex and fantasizing about girls in his own mind, and instead just being that guy who spends his whole day thinking about, improving myself, and thinking about, building my business, thinking about my fitness, thinking about my, thinking about how can I provide for my family, thinking about how can I change people's lives by making different videos, thinking about how can I make different projects that can bring so much to my life, and thinking about how can I make this world a better place, and thinking about my goals, my visions, thinking about my children, my family, whatever. Like, isn't that more masculine? Yes, it is more masculine, okay? So it is more masculine, okay? And I simply realized that, you know what, I don't even need to think about sex, right? Like, I'm not forced to think about it, but I can choose, right? I just don't see any point in doing it. And this is one of the biggest mindset shift that made me to just stop thinking lustfully like this, okay? So you don't just have to affirm to yourself that, oh, I'm more masculine not thinking about sex. No, you have to you also have to rationalize why, okay? Like, how can you be more masculine? Why you are more masculine if you don't think about sex? Just like how I question my beliefs, you also have to question your beliefs as well, just like this, okay? And if you do this mindset shift by simply realizing, rationalizing why, it can literally it can literally make you stop thinking lustfully like this, okay? You can choose to not think about it if you want to not think about it. It's really that simple, okay? But first of all, you need to realize that you are not forced. It's not something that is forced upon you, right? So now the thing is, this is the biggest misconception in the nofap space. This is one of the biggest myth that is floating in the society nowadays, that, you know because the thing is, the information is not out there, and that's why I make these videos for you guys, to spread this truth, to actually change your perspective around things. Because the thing is, we have been brainwashed since our childhood to think like that, and I don't blame you at all, right? You have been brainwashed to think like that since your childhood, right? Because, whenever you go into this self-improvement nofap channels, right, and you are like, and you actually ask these guys that, oh, why do I think lustfully? And they tell you that, they tell you that, oh, it's because of your testosterone, oh, it's because of your libido, oh, it's because of your masculinity. Oh, why do I think lustfully? Oh, it's because of your hormones. Right? So now the problem is that we actually believe them blindly, right? We don't really question we don't really question our beliefs, right? We just believe them blindly. And also, most of the time, these people don't even back it up with any research or studies, and most of the time it's just their own opinion, that's it, right? And because we see that these guys have a lot of subscribers, a lot of views, we think that, oh, apparently he's an expert, right? And that's why we believe them blindly. We don't really question our beliefs. That's the real problem of the society nowadays, right? So now the real problem in the society nowadays is that we don't actually question our beliefs. We don't actually question our beliefs. We are like, oh, because everyone experiences the same thing, right? uh, and that means that it is normal, right? We literally believe that. Like, for example, uh, we think that, oh, we think that oh, for example, if we think that, oh, many people nowadays, right, they many people nowadays, they choose to be a sigma, like this sigma male personality, right? So many people nowadays, they are chasing to be this, like, they're chasing like this sigma kind of personality, where most of the time it's just like, disrespecting women, whatever, right? It doesn't mean that it is normal, right? So that means that, doesn't mean that every single person in the society believes in the same thing, doesn't mean that it's the right belief. You need to still start questioning your beliefs, okay? So, because, at the end of the day, our beliefs is what runs our actions. Our beliefs is what determines our actions. We always act according to our beliefs, right? So if you believe that you're gonna be more masculine if you watch porn, right? And if you think about sex and girls 24 out of 7, oh, that's a sign of your high testosterone, that's a sign of your libido, oh, that's a sign of your masculinity, that's a sign of your manhood, oh, that's a sign of your sexual energy. Oh, so what happens when you believe that, when you if you know when you believe in that, what happens is, in order to get more of the testosterone, more of the libido, more of the masculinity, you will want to think about sex, you're going to think about sex, right? You see, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So you need to, and that's not the truth, okay? Because imagine if, let's say, I tell you that, imagine if, let's say that, uh, I tell you that, oh, if I often think about cars, that means I'm a man. Doesn't make any sense, okay? Like, doesn't they like they literally doesn't even have any correlation, okay? Like, how can thinking about cars make you more manly, make you more masculine, right? It's just like that, okay? We literally correlate things with each other even though they have zero correlation, okay? And that's what we call the learned connections, right? The connections learned connections simply means that when you connect two things together, even though they both have no connection with each other, that's what we call the learned connections. And it seems so much real, okay? But you need to actually start questioning your beliefs, okay? Like, how do you know that lust and libido are connected? How do you know that lust and masculinity are connected? How do you know that lust and your testosterone are connected? Like, can people not have much higher testosterone, much higher libido, and much higher masculinity, and yet they still don't think lustfully? Yes, they can. You can look at so many tribes in South Africa. People in these tribes, they're literally naked. Women in these tribes, they're literally naked, okay? But these guys doesn't have arousals in public. They don't have arousals outside of sex. Why? Because they don't have this belief that they need to get aroused in order to get some form of benefits. They don't have this belief that, oh, if we think about sex and girls 24 out of 7, that's a sign of our high testosterone, that's a sign of our high libido, that's a sign of our masculinity. They literally don't have this belief, right? And because they don't have this belief, I mean, they don't act according to that, okay? Because our beliefs runs our actions, right? So it's really important that you should start questioning your beliefs. So vape, okay? Vaping, right? So you guys know that many people nowadays smoke vapes, and they kind of feel cool about themselves, right? Like, it kind of gives them a Tommy Shelby kind of vibes, whatever, okay? Like, they actually feel cool about themselves when they smoke vapes, right? So whilst on the other hand, basically vape, you know that vape actually contains nicotine in it, right? And nicotine is like, when you smoke vapes, nicotine kind of goes into your brain, right? And it kind of gives you like that light-headed feeling or whatever, right? So basically vaping contains nicotine inside it, which goes into your brain, and it kind of gives you a light-headed feeling, whatever, right? But many people who smoke vapes, they actually feel cool about themselves. They actually, and it can be vape, it can be cigarettes, whatever, right? So is it the nicotine inside the vape that's making them feel cooler about themselves? Or is it simply their own belief, right? Whilst, because there are many people who actually don't find vaping cooler, okay? Like, they actually find vaping quite lame. They actually feel that, oh, it's quite lame to smoke vapes. So when these guys smoke vapes, do they gonna feel cooler about themselves? No, they don't feel cool about themselves. They actually find it quite lame to smoke vapes, right? So is it the nicotine inside the vapes that's making them feel whatever they want to feel about themselves, or it's simply their own belief or perception around that thing? You see where I'm getting at, right? I mean, like, couldn't you feel more cooler not vaping? Couldn't you feel more masculine, more cooler not smoking vapes? right? So this is one another point, okay, that I'm giving you. Simply start questioning your beliefs, okay? Like, first of all, the first thing, start questioning your beliefs. Like, when you watch porn, you, because when you watch porn, you're literally watching a video of two people having sex on a screen, right? So how is that even masculine, right? And second thing, masturbation, right? So masturbation is just like you touching your own genitals. It's just like you stimulating your own genitals. So how is that even masculine, and in what sense, right? And third thing, if you think about sex in your own room, if you think about sex in your own private space, you're literally locked up in your own room and you're just thinking about sex in your own mind, you're fantasizing about these hot girls, right? So how is that even masculine, and in what sense, how is that even masculine, right? So what you will realize, that once you will start questioning your beliefs, you will realize that not only those beliefs are flawed from the very, from since the very beginning, but also that's the belief that literally makes you crave porn or crave masturbation, or want to think about sex 24 out of 7, right? And once you eliminate that belief, not by forcing yourself but by rationalizing why, right? But by questioning your beliefs, understanding why, you can literally stop to think, you can literally choose to stop thinking lustfully like this, okay? Because if it's your mind that thinks about those things, that means you can choose to just stop like this, right? Because what you guys need to understand, that the easiest way to just stop thinking lustfully is to simply realize that you are the one who wants to think lustfully. It's not something that you're forced to do, but you decide to think lustfully because of the perceived value that you see in it, right? And one thing you need to understand, that it's simply your own mind, right? I mean, you are just thinking about sex in your own mind. It's not something that you are feeling inside your body. No, it's not your body that feels about sex, it's literally your own mind that thinks about those things, right? I mean, it's not a bodily kind of thing that your body can, your body does not feel sex. It's simply your mind that thinks about sex. And if it's your mind that thinks about sex, then you can just choose to stop like this. You can choose to not think about it. It's really simple, okay? But you have to rationalize why, okay? Simply questioning your beliefs. Like, could I be more masculine? Could I be more masculine not thinking about sex, not thinking lustfully? And simply rationalizing why, questioning your beliefs. So because the thing is, it's not, because the thing is, your body doesn't feel sex, it's your mind that thinks about sex. You are just thinking about sex in your own mind, right? Your body does not feel sex. Because think about it, just like hunger, for example, what you guys need to understand, that let's say you're in the middle of a boxing match, and even if you're at your work, even if you are at your job, even if you are with your family, you're doing even some serious kind of work, and you're literally busy 24 out of 7, right? So you will still feel hungry, right? Even if you are busy 24 out of 7, you're literally in the middle of a fight, you're in the middle of a boxing match, you're working intensively, you're still gonna feel hungry. Why? Because hunger is a survival need, right? Hunger is a survival need, okay? Because, and you will still feel hungry regardless of if you think about it or not. You will still feel hungry. Your body will still feel that hunger, right? Even if you think about it, and even if you don't think about it, your body will still feel that hunger, because hunger is the survival need, right? But what you guys need to understand, that sex is not like hunger, right? It's not a survival need at all, right? So what you guys need to understand, that sex is not like hunger, because if you don't think about sex, your body will not feel sex, okay? Just like hunger, like when you, even if you're busy 24 out of 7, you're in the middle of a boxing match, you're middle of a fight, you're still gonna feel hungry. Your body will still gonna feel that hunger regardless of if you think about it or not, because hunger is a survival need. But sex is not like hunger, it's not a survival need at all, because if you don't think about sex, your body your body will not feel sex, okay? Because think about it, if you're busy 24 out of 7, let's say you're in the middle of a boxing match, you're in the middle of a fight, and if you don't think about sex, would you, if your body, like, do you think that you in the middle of a boxing match, your body will feel sex? No, right? And even if you are in the let's say you're busy 24 out of 7, you are in the, like, let's say you're in the middle of a business meeting, okay, you're in the middle of a business meeting or whatever, then you won't think about sex in that moment, and your body will not even feel sex in that moment. Why? Because sex is not like hunger, where where you will feel it regardless of if you think about it or not. No, right? Because it's not a survival need at all. Why? Because think about it, many people choose to not have sex and not have kids for like their whole life, right? And yet they still survive, right? Because think about it, many people, so what it shows that sex is not a survival need, but it's simply our desire. It's simply a desire. It's simply something that we want to do. That's it. It's not something that we are forced to do, right? Because think about it, if you were forced to think about sex, right, if you were forced to pursue sex, then not having control would mean that we would be literally talking to every single woman on the streets, we would be raping every single woman, we would be paying for prostitutes. But that's not the case, okay? So, and also you can think of countless examples, okay? Like many people don't even want it, many people don't even want to do it and not have sex for like their whole life. For example, there are many priests, many asexual people, right, and even homosexuals as well, right? So many priests and many asexuals, they don't have sex for like their whole life, they don't even engage in any sexual activity or any sexual behavior for like their whole life, and yet they still survive, okay? Why? Because sex is not a survival need, but it's simply the desire. It's simply something that people want to do, and these guys don't even want it, and because they don't want it, they are not even forced to think about it. Because sex is not like hunger, right? Because hunger is a survival need, it's not a desire. Sex is a desire, okay? You see what I mean? So, and also homosexuals, homosexuals don't even want to have sex with the opposite genders. Like, does that mean that they have some kind of disease? No, it's simply that they have changed their perception. That's it, right? So this is one another example to understand this, okay? Let me give you a personal story about myself. So a few days ago, I was actually I was in a public place basically, right? So I was just sitting at a restaurant or like whatever, and suddenly there I saw a beautiful girl, okay, like a hot girl or whatever, okay. I saw her and he was kind of like dressed in a very perverted way or like whatever, right? I saw her, and of course I saw her by chance, like the first glance that I put on her, then I never looked back at her. I literally never looked back at her, right? And I was not even fantasizing her in my own mind. I was like, yeah, yeah, she's looking beautiful, whatever. But I don't need to put her on a pedestal. I don't need to fantasize about her in my own mind, okay? Right? I just don't see any point in doing it, right? Like, I just don't see any point in doing it. Like, wouldn't be more masculine? Wouldn't it be more masculine not looking at her and not fantasizing about her? And instead, I can think about something else. I can think about building my business, new content ideas, building of, I can think about what projects to make, what next videos to make, whatever. You see, it's simply the mindset shift that can help you a lot, right? So again, really start questioning your beliefs, right? And you can actually choose to stop like this. So guys, there are 3 steps to just stop thinking lustfully like this, okay? But first of all, this mindset shift will help you a lot, okay? And that is all about debunking. So there are 3 steps to stop thinking lustfully. First step is to simply accept, right? Second step is to simply question, and third step is to simply debunk, right? Now the first step is to simply accept. You need to literally accept that, you know what, I like to think lustfully, I like to look at women's body parts, and just put the shame, guilt, morality aside, right? Because if you will feel shame, guilt and morality, then it will always distract you from the actual reasons for why you want to think lustfully, right? So that's why it's really important that you should put the shame, guilt, morality aside for the moment being, and just accept on it. Say that yes, I desire to think about girls, I desire to think lustfully, I desire to I desire to think lustfully. Okay, accept it. And then second step is to simply question. Now that you have accepted, you simply have to ask yourself this one question: why? Why do you like thinking lustfully? What are you actually getting out of it, right? And be as honest as possible. So basically you will come up with so many beliefs, like, just like this belief, okay, that, oh, if I think lustfully because I see these benefits in it. Benefits like, oh, if I think lustfully, that means I have a very high testosterone, I have a very high libido. Or if I think lustfully, that means I have a very high masculine if I think lustfully, that means I have masculinity, right? I'm so masculine and I'm a man, okay, right? If I think lustfully, that means I have a very high libido, right? So you need to actually, and then the third step is to simply debunk. You can simply go and debunk those beliefs, just like we are doing right now. You can just simply start questioning your beliefs, right? And I will make even more videos about it, but for now, simply debunk that belief, just like we are doing right now, right? And simply understand, simply start questioning your beliefs, and you will realize that you will just stop thinking lustfully like this, okay? So guys, if this video helped you, make sure to leave a like and comment down below, and let me know if you have any question in your mind. Just feel free to ask me anything, and I will we always respond to your comments, okay? If you want to make this process even more easier and effortless, and really get to the root cause of porn, masturbation and lust using subconscious transition, go in the description down below, and then you can simply watch the free masterclass, and then later on you can book a call with me, and we're going to discuss the process of our coaching with you. So guys, see you guys in the next video. Take care for now. Assalamu alaikum.